Alhamdulillah, nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nu'minu bihi wa natawakkalu alayh wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa man yudlilhu fala hadiya lahu wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu amma ba'd. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Shahru Ramadan allazi unzila fihi al-Quran hudan lin-nas. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbi zidna ilma. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This year, inshallah, we intend to share, discuss about some information, about knowledge, about Ramadan, about the month of Ramadan. So this is actually the best time to get started. This is towards the end of Shaban. Ramadan is just about a week's time from now. So it's a good time, if we are to share something about Ramadan, it's a good time to start. Today is also Jummah. No, it's not Friday, it's Thursday. So how is it Jummah? It's Jummah because Thursday evening. Jummah is actually from Thursday evening to Friday evening. Thursday sunset to Friday sunset. That's Jummah. So today is Thursday, but still it's Jummah. So it's a good time to start with about a week's time from now before Ramadan starts. By the way, which year is it? No, it's not 2015. Ramadan 2015 makes no sense. It's Ramadan 1436 Hijri. Ramadan 1436, which happens to fall in this year, in the year of 2015, in the months across June and July. That's okay, but Ramadan itself, it makes no sense if we say Ramadan 2015. No, it's not. Ramadan 1436. That's what it is. So every year when the month of Ramadan comes, we Muslims, or most of us, we tend to maximize our benefits in this blessed month. The month itself is blessed. It's full of blessings, and we try to maximize our rewards, our ibadah, our worship, and all associated acts, good deeds. However, there are certain points which Muslims tend to fight over, and this happens each and every year. Every year when the month of Ramadan comes, people will fight over these issues. So it's important to discuss about these issues, and not just these issues. We intend to discuss about all issues pertaining to Ramadan, to the month of Ramadan, and also what we should do before it and what we should do after it. So for Ramadan, before Ramadan, and post Ramadan as well, after Ramadan as well. So there are certain things, certain aspects, which if we want to derive benefits for in this year itself, then we must cover those aspects, issues, before the month of Ramadan starts. There are other aspects, other issues, the discussion of which can be delayed till a little later. For example, the issues pertaining to, say, Laylatul Qadr nights. So these discussions can be pushed back till a later point of time, till a later date. So we intend to start today, and we intend to go right across the month of Ramadan, and we intend to share some post-Ramadan info as well. So that's the plan. Now, this is not going to be, or this is not intended to be a single lecture or a single session. This is intended to be a whole lot of, a series of lectures, or a series of sessions, whatever you may want to call it as. So that's the plan. So pre-Ramadan, a pre-Ramadan talk, or a pre-Ramadan lecture, or pre-Ramadan session itself is not going to be a single lecture session. It's not going to be a single talk. It itself will consist of a lot of short talks. Short talks, how does it help? It helps us to understand better, to go through it, to reference it, to resource it, and it's easy for all of us to share it. So we intend to do it in short sessions. This is basically a sort of overview. So a lot of things which we will present today will also be discussed in details in lectures or sessions to follow, and whatever that needs to be covered before the month of Ramadan begins will be inshallah done before that, and whatever we can continue with during Ramadan will be done at that time, and even after Ramadan we just want to follow it up with a few sessions. So that's the whole plan. So the first point that definitely needs to be discussed before the month of Ramadan begins is about the moon sighting. And every year when Ramadan, the month of Ramadan approaches, this issue will come up, the issue of the moon sighting. I say it's become a case of moon fighting rather than moon sighting. So let's stop this issue of moon fighting and try to understand the intricacies behind the debate of the moon sighting issue. Now, it's not as simple, it's not that complex either. It's possible, very much possible for us to understand if we try to explore it at length. So there are various groups, and each of these groups will blame all other groups for lack of understanding the issue. And the rest of the groups will also throw the blame back to the other groups. This is what has been happening for a long time now, 1436 years, more than that. So let's try to resolve these issues. So this is one of the issues about the moon sighting, which if we are to benefit from this aspect of among the issues of Ramadan, if you benefit about this particular aspect of Ramadan, then this definitely needs to be covered before the start of the month of Ramadan. Now, here it is important for us to sort of share a general overview even before trying to attempt the answer to this question, whether it should be moon sighting, whether it should be based on sighting through the aid of advanced technologies, whether it should be based on calculations, astronomical calculations, scientific calculations. So sighting, eye sighting, then telescopic sighting, calculations, what exactly should be done. And the second is whether it should be a local sighting, global sighting. If it's a global sighting, what should be considered as the base location? Should it be Mecca? Should it be anywhere else? If so, why so? And a whole lot of issues are coming to the fore for our discussion. So as we said, this is meant to be an overview session. So whatever we discuss now will again be repeated as and when required, or whatever part of it is required in a separate session. Okay, let me just also elaborate to you how these sessions are planned. Some of the sessions will be in the form of short talks, just as this one, this introductory session. Some of the talks will be more visual in approach. That means you will benefit more at looking at some data or some images, some facts, some figures, more than by looking at me. So I'll present the images and the data to you, and you can follow as I explain to you. At other places, it will be more of a talk, just as this particular session. So that's the whole plan. So let's keep it very simple for the first session, and let's try to keep it short. And the subsequent sessions also is intended to be short. Now, things are, as I said, not very easy, and it's not that difficult either. The first thing that we need to understand is the difference between the solar calendar and the lunar calendar. People will wonder, it's such a basic thing, why do we need to understand these things? It's so obvious. We all know about it, don't we? Let's see if we are able to help you out with a better understanding of these issues collectively. So as far as the solar calendar is concerned, then what is the base of the solar calendar? There is a sun, and the earth revolves around the sun. Now, the earth revolves around the sun, and it takes 365 days approximately. And there are adjustments made in the leap year and at other times to account for the impreciseness, because it's not exactly 365 days. So to adjust that, we have the leap year and other adjustments brought into the calendar system. So this is a system, and then the entire year, what we call it year, so one complete revolution at the starting point, it reaches back to the starting point. In fact, the path is not that simple. It's not a simple circle. It's not even a simple whatever shape you call it. It's not that simple. It's immensely complicated. We'll explain to you should the need arise at other places. It's a whole lot of physics involved. We don't want to complicate issues too much in this introductory talk. Let's keep it simple. So that's one cycle, and that's what is called a year. We divide this year into 12 time periods, and we call each time period a month. Now, this may seem to be very basic, but when we try to begin to explain the lunar system and the differences, this will help. And each period, the 12 periods, each period is called a month. Now, the number of days in a month has been arbitrarily fixed, absolutely arbitrarily fixed. So some months will have 31 days, some will have 30 days. February has 28 days. In leap years, it has 29 days. So this fixing of the number of days in a particular year is absolutely arbitrary. There is no logic, no reason, no sense at all for this fixing. Now, another important point to note is how is the day fixed in a solar calendar? One day. What does one day mean? Now, one day is actually a one cycle of day and night, which consists of 24 hours. Actually, it does not consist of 24 hours. It consists of a specific duration, which we today normally refer to as 24 hours. It would have been referred to, or that time period would have been divided instead of 24 units into other units, and that could have been better. And there are ways to divide it to make it into a better management of time. But we will not bring on these issues in this introductory session. So let's keep it simple. So the way we understand it normally, so 24 hours in a day, that completes a day or a day and night cycle. How is it calculated? One day and the next day? The timing starts at 12 midnight, where the day starts, and then it's dawn, it's sunrise, it's morning, it's 12 noon, it's evening, sunset, afternoon, evening, sunset, then night, and then 12 midnight, and then the new day starts. Simple, but I'm explaining it to you for a reason. You'll come to know, you'll get the feel of it, hang of it. You'll get the understanding of why I'm trying to focus so much on these things. So that's the solar day and the solar month. Now let's jump back to our lunar month system. In a lunar month, what happens is the lunar year, it also consists of 12 months. Now each month of each lunar month, each lunar cycle, each lunar month consists of 29 or 30 days, either 29 days or 30 days. Now, how is the one day actually calculated in a lunar system? In a lunar system, the calculation of the days and the calculation of months is different. Let's see how. Let's use the Islamic calendar system to understand it better, because the Islamic calendar system is based on the lunar system. Let's consider the Islamic day. What is one day according to the Islamic calendar system? One day in Islam, when does it start and when does it end? So sunset time, the sun has set and the new day begins. It's night, it's midnight, it's fajr, it's dawn, it's sunrise, it's morning, it's 12 at noon, it's afternoon, it's evening, it's sunset. At sunset, the new day again starts and the old day, the previous day, ends. So as far as the solar day is concerned, each day begins at a specific time, 12 midnight. But as far as the lunar day is concerned, it varies because the sunset time continues to vary throughout the year. In different zones, in different regions, it varies to a great extent. So every day is actually varying bit by bit. So it will not necessarily be 24 hours. It may be little less, little more. That's how it is. So sunset to sunset. in Islam, in the Islamic calendar system, one day, that is one day and night cycle, the night comes first and then the day. Again, the next day, that is the day and night cycle, the night comes first and then the day. That's how this day is calculated. Now, the calculation of the month is both easy as well as complex. Why I'm trying to explain these things to you is most of the complications and the fighting over the complications arises due to a lack of understanding of these key issues. So how the month now is calculated, the lunar month. In the Islamic calendar system, though any calendar system which is a lunar calendar system, for example, the Jewish calendar system, will necessarily be same or similar. So now the marking of the start of the month, the lunar month, how is it done? Now this is a bit tricky, not very tricky, but a bit tricky. Now, it's not directly related to the sun. It's not directly related to the moon. Now, what are we saying here? It's the marking of the beginning of a month. Why is marking the beginning of a month so important? Because marking the beginning of the month of Ramadan gives us the starting point of the fasting month. And then the marking of the beginning of the month of Shawwal marks the end of the fasting month, the month of Ramadan. And so on the 1st of Shawwal, during the daytime, we have Eid al-Fitr. So that is why marking the first of the lunar month or the month of Ramadan is so important. And to understand the marking of the start of the month of Ramadan, let us understand the marking of the beginning of any month, any lunar month, how it is done. As I said, it is not directly based on the sun. It is not directly based on the moon. What is it based on? It is based on, and this thing will be best understood through some data, which we will do in a subsequent session, not session here. I only explain. Later we'll do a recording, a session where there will be just only data presented to you, and I'll not be visible. Basically, the screen, you will see in the screen some data, some images that will help us to understand the subject better. But to have a basic idea what's going on over here, see the sunset, the sunrise and the sunset. We understand what's the sunrise and the sunset. We see it every day, don't we? The sunrise and the sunset. As far as the moonrise and the moonset is concerned, then we are not much interested in the moonrise and the moonset. We don't have this as a habit to observe or to follow the moonrise and the moonset timings, because it does not directly impact our day-to-day lives. Because everything what has been designed in our work schedule is based on the solar calendar system. So we do not pay much attention throughout the year about the moonrise and the moonset timings, except when the month of Ramadan comes, there's a huge hue and cry and people start clashing with each other. That's what happens. So there is the moonrise. The moonrise, as far as the sunrise and the sunset times are concerned, it varies, but the variation is not much. But when it comes to the moonrise and the moonset, the variation at what time the moon will rise and at what time the moon will set varies tremendously. Tomorrow or whenever we do the next recording, the next session where we want to present to you the data, the images, it'll become more clear. So it varies tremendously. So the moonrise, whenever that happens, and the moonset, whenever that happens, if the moon has set, now we are discussing about those days which are close to the beginning of the new month. If the moon sets before the sun sets, we're trying to understand what are we trying to understand? We're trying to understand the beginning, marking the beginning of a lunar calendar, lunar month, basically. So if the moon sets before the sun sets, that means if the moon has already set before the sun set, that means when the sun has set, the moon is no more visible in the sky. I hope that's clear. If the moon has already set before the sunset, that means by the time the sun has set, the moon has already set before that. So the moon is no more up in the sky and it's not visible. It's not visible. As simple as that. Next, if the sun has set, I'm talking the next day. Now, if the moon has not set, the moon is still above the horizon. Mind you, the moonrise may have taken much, much earlier. We're not concerned about that at all. But if the sun has set, but the moon is still above the horizon, we're talking about the next day. Now, it's theoretically possible for us to sight the moon. It is theoretically possible for us to sight the moon. I hope that much is clear. I've been able to clarify till this level at least. So the sun has set, the moon is still above the horizon. So theoretically, it is possible to sight the moon. Now, if the moon is sighted, we will discuss about the issue of the sighting versus the calculation, the divide in the ummah, but that later. Let's try to understand this. The sun has set, and the next day the moon has not set before the sunset, but it's still above the horizon. It will set a little later. It will set a little later. So theoretically, it is possible for us to sight the moon. Now, theoretically, it may be possible. Now, so theoretically, scientifically, astronomically, this is the new moon. This is the crescent. This is the hilal. This is the hilal. I mean, there may be a scientific difference in the two terms, the new moon and the crescent moon. The new moon may be defined the previous day when there's absolutely nothing visible. These are difficult concepts. Let's try to understand the core issue. The new moon, the formation of the new moon may be at a time when it's not, maybe during the day, so it's not actually visible. These are not very easy concepts. Okay, so now the next day, the sun has set and the moon has not yet set. So the moon is still up. It's not about the moon rise. The moon has not yet set. So now it is scientifically the crescent moon. Sometimes it so happens that we are able to visualize the new moon on the first night, theoretically. I mean, theoretically it is possible, and also we have been able to sight, because it is theoretically possible to sight and it's also possible to sight, and sometimes we are actually able to sight. So when we are able to sight, then there's no controversy at all on the first day itself. But what happens is, if the moon, though the moon is above the horizon, sometimes it's very close to the horizon and it may go unsighted. It may go unsighted. That means theoretically possible to sight, but in spite of that, we are not actually able to sight it. What happens in that case? So if we wait for the next day, the sun has set and the moon is now in the sky for a longer duration of time. And theoretically, the chances of our sighting is so much more increased. And usually, when we do not sight the moon on the first day, invariably, at least somewhere, someone, at least I'm saying, not necessarily only one particular place or only one particular person has to sight. It can be many. It's usually many at many simultaneous places, by many simultaneous people. When simultaneously at many places and by many people, it is sighted, and so we see the new moon, and then the month actually begins. Mind you, in these the last 2-3 days that we are talking about, the moon rise has actually occurred much earlier. It's during the day, but the moon set, it's because the timing is actually determined, the moon setting time. The longer the moon is, the later the moon setting time is, the longer it's in the sky, it's above the horizon, and the greater the chances for our visibility. Now it will not go much beyond that, because a lunar month can only be 29 days or 30 days. It can never be 28 days. It can never be 31 days, either 29 or 30. So that actually helps in reducing the complications to an extent. So I hope this was clear. So it depends on, now when you have sighted the moon, it marks the beginning of the lunar month of the Islamic calendar, or even any calendar system, whether it be Jewish calendar or if any other calendar system follows the lunar calendar system, then that's that. Because an Islamic calendar system and a Jewish calendar system, the lunar months will exactly be the same, except that the names may be different, but essentially the months themselves or itself, it will be the same start time, same end time for the month. Now, I think it's an overview, and already we have explained or taken up more time than we should have ideally. But as you've seen, things are not so simple that it can be explained in a lightning speed. It would have created confusion, and we intended to just reduce the sort of confusion before we actually deal with the issues at length. So let's summarize, and we'll start from here actually. Let's summarize for now, and we'll start from here. Now, the questions are that we intend to discuss or address in the next session, in the next lecture of this series, is that should. Now, on the first day, as I said, theoretically it is possible to see. But if we don't see, should we rely on scientific calculations or not? That is one question. And second is, if at some places it has been seen, at other places it has not been seen, what do we do in that case? Should we, because some others have seen, should we go along with them, or should we see it ourselves in our country or by ourselves? If it's a global sighting, should it be based on Makkah, the sighting at Makkah, or can it be at any place else? So these are some of the issues that associate with it. Local sighting, global sighting. If global sighting, then where? Makkah or any other place? What is the basis? And should it actually be based on only on sighting, or can it be telescopic sighting, that is scientifically aided sighting, or it has to be, or can it also be based on scientific calculations? So what exactly is the viewpoint, the correct viewpoint? And these are the issues basically over which we fight, and we will try to discuss about these issues in our next session, inshallah. We would have liked to do so today, but I thought giving some time to just understand this concept, because people are not clear about this. When does it actually mark the beginning of the new month? So that thing we have tried to explain with the sunset and the corresponding moon set, either before it or after it, and that's how actually the month actually starts. Now, when the month actually starts, what about the day? There are issues and complexities related to that as well. So from the sunset till the moon sighting, is it considered to be in the previous month or in the new month? So these are more additional complications. As I said, not from nothing, conflicts have arisen in the Muslim Ummah. So there are issues, there are complexities. We're trying to address those issues and trying to address these complexities. Some of you will hear this lecture and say nothing much has been discussed. You may not return to the series, but this was meant to be that way. This was meant to be an overview. This was meant to set the basics of understanding from the physical phenomena point of view. People are not clear. For those of you for whom it is already clear, though I doubt for how many that case is, it's not an overwhelming majority. Even if people are aware, it's less in number. So those who are clear about it already, it's good, alhamdulillah. But for others, it would be immensely beneficial, I hope. Even if after that there are some questions or issues, we can discuss about it also. And the scope is always there. So I think it's best to draw a conclusion to this first session and then just go ahead with the other sessions from here on. So we would ideally like to do one session per day. Sometimes there may creep in gaps, so we would be forced to do one session at an interval of 1 day gap in between, or we may find the time and even do 2 sessions in a day. We are not sure at this moment. It's all about finding the time and finding basically the time, so that we can just go ahead with the series and hope that it helps the Muslim Ummah tremendously, inshallah. That's the objective with which the series has been started. So that's it for now. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.